surprising.
Yeah, like you said, I'm not quite surprised about Lacon's own, because right from the very first day they arrived at the house, people were trying to make jest of all the housemates that came in, and Lacon, they were like, the first thing I heard about Lacon reported to the diary room, SARS are looking for him because of his looks and his dreadlocks.
He looks very
yeah, after then he coming under a series of, I wouldn't want to say some backlash, and then people had to search for him, and they discovered that he was actually one of the best graduating students from Unilag during his time, and he's a recording artist that recorded songs with the likes of Reminisce.
Also, he's so full of wisdom. You can see the way he analyzes situations. When things happen, the way he speaks, he seems to be very mature. His looks don't just match with his actual personality, but Lacon is actually very intelligent.
So many people have been clamoring for him that Lacon. Yes. I think I actually saw that coming, but except a few weeks back, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about. There was a comment from him pitching the organizers of the show against Kidwire, where he was talking about Erica was drunk and he felt Kidwire would have taken advantage of her. So that didn't go down well with fans of Kidwire, and they were already accusing the organizers of Big Brother that probably they already have their scripted winner. I thought that would affect chances of Lacon winning, because if he eventually wins, it would be like, okay, we said it.
It seems sometimes people feel like these things are staged, they are scripted and all that. But, well, if they actually scripted, then I think the organizers are, I don't know, they are really up on their game.
I actually brought up the Big Brother talk this morning because I know you noticed something. You can actually catch all the drama on television Nigeria.
Of course,
anytime.
I started your one stop.
Bring you all the interesting
Yes.
All right, on a more serious note, security, insecurity, and then we'll be having different side stories. Just yesterday, indigents or some people from Adamawa, Yobe, and other northern states came to express their gratitude to President Muhammadu Buhari concerning how he's been able to handle security issues, and then they now have peace in their communities. Then side by side, we're still having growing concern about insecurity from some northern part of the country. Let's talk about these things.
It's very surprising. Sometimes we always say that there is more to these things than meet the eye. We can only analyze and judge and speak from what we are seeing, but we really don't know what plays down. Sometimes we see some things looking very serious and really looking very bad on the outside, but on the inside, it's not really like that. Now, we have people coming out to thank the president, to say, okay, in our areas, but these are the same areas that apparently people are seen to be very volatile, when it comes to insecurity. And it now makes us really wonder that are these things being, in the faces of the people now? Is there a way that it is projected to be worse than it actually is? Because we know that the government is actually trying. They've been doing their best. We've been seeing religious leaders meeting almost every other day to see how they can cope and visit the issue of insecurity. So when this is happening and these people are actually thanking the president, and then we are still seeing other things that negate what's happening, are we going to, is it time for us to start believing that it might not be as bad as it seems? Or these are the questions
very prominent questions raised by you there, and I know these are some of the questions on the minds of so many Nigerians. But the fact is, talking about security challenges, and then we look at the regional state of security, like from the northern part of the country, and then if you look at some of the states that we just highlighted, Adamawa and Yobe, we remember what happened with the Dapchi girls. But relatively for a while now, we've not really had any security issues from those two states mentioned. So they may be right, but on the other hand, places like Borno and then the most talked about
Kaduna is,
in recent times. So these are the issues we really need to look at. Then concerning the question you raised earlier on, it's so unfortunate that our democracy largely we tend to flex it, and sometimes people who are privileged to an extent decide to overflex it and maybe overstep their boundaries by uttering some kind of statement. But on a general note, we see that people tend to politicize everything that happens.
Exactly. And that's where the problem lies, because
that's where it lies, like you said.
When people politicize things like this, it now makes it difficult for us to get to the root of the issue and actually solve it. So on the other hand, let's say the president is trying, gathering people here and there to see how these things can work. And then on the other hand, some people have ulterior motives, our other intentions, and so they are bringing it down at the other end. So it now makes it difficult for us to really see things for the way they really are. So it's quite disturbing. And then the issue of community policing, we saw that a lot of money has been disbursed for that purpose.
Yes.
And isn't that still going to buttress the point that the government is really trying?
Yeah, to an extent, to buttress the point that they are trying. There was a time we hosted a former AIG, Assistant Inspector General of Police, and he was trying to lecture us or tell the public, our viewers, what the idea, the concept of community policing is. In his exact words, he was trying to make reference to what happens in Gusape here and then what happens in Wuse precisely. He was like, the tendency or the kind of crime that's being committed in these places may be quite different. Maybe because that is more like a commercial hub, and this is more like a settlement area, residential area. So you may have issues of burglary around here. You may have issues of snatching or several other things in Wuse. So you don't approach these security challenges same way.
Community policing. Do you think it should be embraced? Apparently we've adopted it because money has been disbursed for the reason. So
definitely, but
is it going to work?
We just need to revisit the way we go about some of these things. Every time the issue of community policing is being mentioned, people tend to look at it and compare with what happens with the state electoral bodies, where they just feel they are more like tools in the hands of the respective state governors. So if the community policing is not properly
handled and managed,
it may be the same thing where you now have the chief executive officers of various states use them at their disposal, maybe to clamp down on perceived political enemies.
And then so comes the issue of politicizing, which you mentioned earlier on.
So for things to actually get better in this country or anywhere, we just need to find a way of calling a spade a spade.
Exactly, and we should say no to. How do we say no? But anyways, I think that this adoption of community policing, if we're going to try it out, then moving forward, I think we should give it some time and see if it's going to work. Then see how we can do. Because talking about the fact that community policing will differ in various areas because the kind of things that happen in those areas are different is very important. If you now adopt a zapping mechanism for we'll say and vice versa, you might not get the required results. So
okay, it's about our time. We'll go across go over to the news desk to get some amazing news from Susanna, who's actually on set.
There are a lot of false information about the coronavirus. These are the facts. People of all ages can be affected by the coronavirus. However, older people and people with pre-existing medical conditions such as asthma, diabetes, heart diseases are more vulnerable to the disease. It is not for old people alone. Gargling salt and warm water or chewing garlic and ginger cannot prevent the virus. Drinking alcohol, hot lemon, palm oil or chloroquine will not kill the virus. The virus cannot be transmitted through mosquito bites. Antibiotics do not work against the viruses. Antibiotics work only against bacteria. Boiling pineapple peels, lime and ginger does not kill the virus. Putting raw onions in rooms will not ward off the virus. Using or spraying Dettol, special oils and water all over your body cannot kill the virus. There is no scientific evidence that cooking, drinking or eating any of these is an effective treatment for coronavirus. Do not self-medicate and take responsibility by sharing only verified messages from health authorities such as NCDC, Federal Ministry of Health and WHO.
Your body bang, bang, your body bang, 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 your body bang, your body bang. Fire. And I give us when you take a selfie, when you take a pose, you the ginger the boy. Every time you bend the low, I'm a girl when you take a selfie. When you take a photo, you the ginger the boy. Every time you bend it low. Carolina,
Want to shoot a dope music video at 50% discount?
50% discount?
Yeah, 50% discount. Bougie down to Television Nigerian with world-class equipment and a badass expert crew.
Oga, face your camera now. Shh. Continue.
Where was I? Everything extra.
Carolina, you bada.
Hurry up.
I know say you know this thing you did do, my girl.
Good morning and welcome to AM News. I am Susan Achin. Nigeria on Thursday added 476 fresh COVID-19 cases, with 7 more deaths, taking the fatality figure to 992. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control (NCDC) disclosed the latest COVID-19 figures in a tweet on its official handle. Although Nigeria had reported fewer confirmed cases in recent weeks, Thursday's new infections in 17 states and the Federal Capital Territory take the total cases in the West African nation to 50,964. Meanwhile, the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Mr. Boss Mustafa, on Thursday, ripped into the attitude of Nigerians, placing the blame for the country's failure to have halted the spread of the pandemic on them. In an impassioned speech during the briefing of the PTF, Mustafa, who is also the secretary to the government of the Federation, said everything was put in place to stop the pandemic from spreading as much as it has in the country. The only thing missing was the right attitude. Visibly upset, Mustafa suggested that rather than follow guidelines, Nigerians thought only about their rights, failing to realize that the rights came with correspondent responsibilities. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved 13.3 billion naira for the takeoff of community policing initiative across Nigeria as the country seeks to tackle its security challenges. The approval was disclosed by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo during a virtual meeting of the National Economic Council (NEC) on Thursday. It explained that during the meeting it was resolved that the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum with 2 other governors meet with the secretary to the government of the Federation, the finance minister and the inspector general of police to coordinate the proper utilization of the funding of the initiative. And now moving on to the world of sports, Nigeria's senior men's basketball team, the D Tigers, will begin their campaign for the 2021 FIBA AfroBasket with the first round of qualifiers in November. The 20 teams participating in the qualifying process are grouped into 5 groups of 4 teams each. Nigeria has been drawn in Group D. Rwanda, Mali, and Algeria complete the group, and Nigeria's first series of games will be played in Rwanda from Friday, November 27 to Sunday, November 29. The second window of qualifiers will be played in 2021 from Friday, February 19 to Sunday, February 21 in a yet-to-be-announced venue. And on the entertainment scene, the past weeks have seen housemates Nengi, Lakon, and Erica consistently dominate popular search engine Google as it has on social media platforms. Top searches for Nengi include her infamous fight with latest evictee Kaisha, as well as her friend-zone situation with Ozo. Lakon is not just famous online, but interestingly has the most searched traffic overall. The housemate has piqued interest for his striking personality and his musical prowess, which has viewers digging up his songs. Erica, on the other hand, sported the biggest search spike for her entanglement with billionaire son Kid Wire. Other housemates who have generated impressive searches include Katrina, Dorothy, and Kid Wire. Going by these searches, it is safe to opine that viewers already have their ultimate lockdown favorites. However, there can only be one winner. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that. And that's it on AM News. I am Susan Achin. Daybreak Africa will continue shortly. Stay with us.
Your body bang, 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 your body bang. And I give us when you take a selfie, when you take a pose, you the ginger the boy. Every time you bend the low, I'm a girl when you take a selfie. when you take a pose. You the ginger the boy. Every time you bend it low.
Want to shoot a dope music video at 50% discount?
50% discount?
Yeah, 50% discount. Bougie down to Television Nigerian with world-class equipment and a badass expert crew.
Oga, face your camera now. Shh. Continue.
Where was I? Everything extra.
Carolina, you bada.
Hurry up.
I know say you know this thing you
Alright, welcome back. This is still Daybreak Africa on Television Nigeria. Interesting news items right there from our news desk by yours truly.
Yours truly.
Alright, it's about our time. We'll go across some national dailies to see headlines we have from those national dailies. Let's begin with you.
Alright, now the Daily Times newspaper, above the picture story, it reads, How United Kingdom Deals with Nigerian-Owned Churches, Others. And you can get that one on page 2 of the Daily Times newspaper. Above the nameplate, the editorial reads, Proper Management of Foreign Exchange Regime. And then below that we have economy, how Nigeria can generate 41 billion naira yearly through AFCTA. And on import, Nigerian importers kick against surcharge by foreign shipping firms. And then on legislature, it says Senate to probe alleged $2,000 hike in residence permit for foreigners. And that is it for the Daily Times newspaper.
I will now take a look at headlines from the Business Day this morning. The banner headline from this publication reads, Timely protest saved Lagos from losing position as creative hub, as LSFVCB reveals 5% tax creative content withdraws 30-day ultimatum. And then beside that, medical care eludes disabled Nigerians on fear of infection. And then we have the picture story that's showing some chart here with the caption, FX sales by the CBN to authorize dealers, first quarter of 2020 % share. And then the chart shows different percent for some of these. And then the total is reading 13.38 billion US dollars. All right, I'll take this inside story as the last headline from the Business Day this morning. The inside story reads, NDPHC boss promises improved power supply as it gets second term. That can be found on page 2 of the Business Day, and that does it for Business Day this morning.
And now moving on to the Daily Sun newspaper. Just beside that one, it says 2023 presidency, Ohaneze Iwanyanwu, group seek for support for younger Igbo. And that could be found on page 27 of the Daily Sun newspaper. Below that, we have Kalu Louds Buhari over establishment of diagnostic center in Umuahia. Nice one. Yes. And the banner headline says, Foreign arms suppliers to bandits arrested. Page 5, you could find that one. And just below that, it says, Insurgents kill 3 soldiers, injured 2 in military base attacks in Borno. And then troops destroy terrorist camps, arrest 7 in Zamfara. You know, a lot of these troops have been doing a lot of work.
Yes.
You know, but unfortunately, sometimes the insecurity is louder than the efforts that have been put in place.
Most times it's not about the insecurity being louder than the effort. Our expectations are actually so high that no matter the much they do, we feel it's not enough.
And we are not the ones in the forefront of the war, so we can never really know how bad.
You understand.
You know. Okay, so below the picture story, women wing of the Trade Union Congress TUC protesting over rape in Ibadan yesterday. Wow, this issue cannot be overemphasized, and we can see the pictures, you know, of the placards and women there. Below that, governors demand suspension of counterpart funds for UBE. FG states local government areas share 676.40 billion naira. And under that, community policing, FG approves 13 billion naira for takeoff. We saw that one earlier on in the news. Just beside that one, Kama FG on warpath with Christians, says Khan. We know that Khan has been meeting with, in Kaduna over the issue of insecurity.
Over the past few days now, we've been hearing getting report about Kama and all, and then so many people have been voicing out their concern about how they feel there's so much intervention coming on these religious bodies, and we need to slow it down.
Exactly. And then we also have Russia, Nigerian business community strengthen economic ties. And under that, you can get that one on page 25 of the Daily Sun newspaper. And lastly, for the Daily Sun newspaper, Buhari presses for sustained pressure against Mali junta. Okay, you can get that one also on page 26 of the Daily Sun. And that is it for the Daily Sun newspaper.
When we talk about the issue in Mali on Wednesday, precisely, we were saying after seeing that some regional bodies and then the continental bodies voice out their criticism and all of that, placing sanctions on Mali for the military junta, the military coup d'etat, we were saying that as day goes on, we're going to see serious condemnation by various presidents. And I saw that of Muhammad Buhari, where he called for the immediate release of the detained ex-president.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the Guardian newspaper this morning. The banner headline from the Guardian newspaper this morning reads, "Foreign investors shun South-South as oil runs dry." That's quite a serious one.
Runs dry, that's huge, if you ask me. Wow.
In order not to make people panic, that's some sort of hyperbole, though.
Yeah.
It's not as if it's totally...
No, but it sounds quite scary.
We saw this coming. Attention has been gradually shifted from oil into the non-oil sector, so we just need to come up with
redirect
activities
our
and everything
and
to match up with the realities of the day. All right, follow up to that particular story reads, we have stakeholders blame insecurity, poor governance, new Lagos refinery will pump crude from region. Why region needs stability now by experts. And below that, we have FDIs in South-South 2013 to 2020. Another chart representing different activities that must have happened over time. And we have this particular one concerning the religious body and then government and authorities intervention with the caption, "Can't reject new company law, seeks review." And then warns a federal government to avert crisis over Kama 2020. Says act a declaration of war on Christianity. We actually talked about that briefly, that some religious leaders felt it was too much intervention by the authorities, and we really need to review that and revisit that. At the end of the day, dialogue is just the surest way to go. So
dialogue over whatever.
All right, let's take a look at some few more other headlines before we move on to the next national daily. Beside or below the picture story here, Buhari seeks stiffer sanctions for Mali and junta, restoration of civil war. You can check that out on page 3 of this publication. That's the Guardian newspaper. And beside that, NPC dismisses rumor of missing crude oil ready for probe. That can be found on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. Below that, Nigerians abroad protest against Kaduna killings, task U.S. others on occasion. That's also on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. And I'll take this last one here. Arotile, prime suspect in for culpable homicide, has caught freeze too. You can check page 5 of the Guardian newspaper for details of that particular story. You can as well do well by picking a copy of the Guardian newspaper to get the details of the story, so just blow your way and even more.
Yeah, I'm very particular about the Arutile issue. The fact that they should actually follow it up to the latter and ensure that whoever is actually culpable, if found guilty, is brought to book.
But so many people have actually been concerned, apart from the fact that this was just a young, promising lad that was just cut off in her prime. Like the last time we talked about it, I said this might not even be her prime.
I know we have no idea if she can achieve this. We can imagine what the future would have held for her.
But for the fact that it was more like an accident, and then somebody has to pay for it, like
the situation, it's very dicey. Yes. So, but anyways, if they should just follow it up. Anyways, we could get something from that. But then moving on to the This Day newspaper. Right at the top, it reads, President intensifies efforts to pass petroleum industry bill. And below that, lobbies National Assembly to suspend recess to consider proposed law. Then we have Nigeria's electricity transmission peaks at 5,420 megawatts. Interesting. Right above the picture story, coup in Mali threatens peace, security of West Africa, says Buhari. We were talking about that one earlier.
Yeah.
And just below that, 6, unconditional release of Keita, and then calls for stricter sanctions against coupists. Okay, then beside the picture story, Christian leaders weigh options on Kama. This has come up a lot in the papers this morning. And just below that picture story, leading charge against coup. And that's quite small, can't really see. But then under that, Akpabio fights back, 6 probe of NDDC's 15 trillion naira allocations. We are still on this NDDC.
Interesting.
It seems to just, disappear. Like every other issue does sometimes around this part of the world.
It's really, really interesting seeing that, okay, it is the minister who is now seeking for progress.
I mean, please, let's follow this up, please.
We need to.
I mean, we have a lot of, let me just say it in the Nigerian language, cut and join issues, that we need to revisit and follow up to the latter until we round them off. That does it for the This Day newspaper.
And up next for review is the Punch newspaper this morning. We take it from top to the bottom, just above the nameplate. FG reciprocate bans European Union flight from Nigeria. That can be found on page 20 of the Punch newspaper. And slightly below that, killings, NBA bows to pressure, drops El-Rufai from Confab. That story is on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. And beside that, COVID-19 drug trial will begin in 13 states soon. That is coming from the Presidential Task Force. And you can check page 18 of the Punch newspaper for the details of that. We have this concerning the religious, but it's also with the authorities. Kama, unacceptable, ungodly, a time bomb says can. That can be found on page 6. And then the banner headline from there is talking about the Chinese loan and probes. Talking about, you were talking about so many probes here. Chinese loan probe. Others stored as reps suspend panel sittings. Don't compromise investigations. CSO wants. Then wants National Assembly members. Below that, we will continue probes after resumption. NDDC committee chair. Others, I'm not aware of suspension of committee's activity, says loan panel chair. And like you said, CSO has already warned the assembly members not to compromise probe.
Exactly.
And Nigerians are actually keenly watching, and then
to see.
So Nigerians have been so interested in cases like this. So you don't just raise their hopes and at the end of the day, they don't hear anything. But it's quite good that this publication is reporting that the probe will return after when sittings resume as well.
We also saw the way it went. It was kind of new to our system. That kind of open probe where everybody's watching and seeing the questions and interrogations. So it's a good one.
Like I love that particular point you just raised, because some people tend to look at the current administration regarding matching words with action concerning fight against corruption and all. But that point you just say is more a valid one, showing how how ready they are to fight corruption in the system. Like you say, it's new. So
it led to a collapse, so we can see how serious
it was. Really serious. All right, the picture story here. I'm seeing some corps members and then some military personnel have camps resumed. Let's take a look at more headlines from this publication to see what that's all about. All right, police plays a 5 million naira bounty on suspected Oyo serial killer head. That can be found on page 7. And beside that, fleeing Ogun engineer who raped neighbor's daughter arrested. And so many Nigerians will be happy with this particular one. And then, Sultan declares Friday Islamic New Year. And I'll take these few last one here that are almost at the footnote of the front page of this Punch newspaper this morning. At Rotile, 2 suspects freed, driver to escape death. Workers' headless body found in company premises. Another sad one. And I'll take this last one here. Postponing Edo Ondo Post will create constitutional crisis. That is coming from INEC.
Would it?
It will.
Okay.
All right, that does it for the Punch newspaper this morning. Let's move on to the next publication.
Okay, the Nation newspaper, just above the nameplate, reads, lawmakers NDDC enroll over removal of 10 billion naira rice project. Just beside that, ministers, senators, reps, ex-governors behind illegal mining in Oshun. You can get that one on page 7 of the Nation newspaper. And government limits passengers on inbound flights. Oyo to approve paternity leave. Just above the picture story, Buhari okays community policing take off with 13 billion naira. Signed and sealed. Beside the picture story, governors, SGF, IG, others to meet on modalities. Yeah, that one came up during the AM news. And just below the picture story, ECOWAS asks Mali junta to reinstate Keita government. Wow.
Wow.
Woo. Really now? All right. We'll see about that. But you can get the Nation newspaper and you can get more details of that one.
All right,
that's it for the Nation newspaper.
Okay, I have at my front the Nigerian Tribune, which happens to be the last national daily we'll be taking a look at before we move on to the next package on Daybreak Africa this morning. And then above the nameplate, we have the stories. Protesters win as NBA withdraws invitation to El Rufai. Check page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune for details of that particular story. And beside that, Oshomole Gambari Villa meeting can truncate Nigeria's democracy. That is coming from Secondus, and that story is on page 5 of the Nigerian Tribune. And then INEC threatens to cancel Ondo Edo polls. If what? Pick a copy of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper to get the details of that. And that story can be found on page 5 of the National Daily, and below the nameplate, number 48 million barrels of crude oil missing.
Wow.
NNPC. And that story is on the page 7. 48 million barrels of crude oil.
How do these things happen?
And the whole issue now, apart from you asking how did this happen, we need to ask, it is the raw crude or the refined one that's been
exactly. I mean, the questions
country.
that are going to come out of this are endless.
Endless.
Yes.
Right. Beside that, national grid hit all-time peak of 5,420 megawatts. That can be found on page 6. And then there were talks that we now have capacity of generator up to 7,000 megawatts, and then all-time high of 5,420. It's quite a good one.
I think you said it's the highest so far or something like that.
Yeah, that's what the headline is reflecting here. And then Khan rejects Kama, says law ungodly. So many stories concerning this Khan and Kama this morning. All right, community policing seems to be rocking the front page of almost all the national dailies this morning. And then on the page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune, and that's forming the major headline here, community policing, FG approves 13 billion naira for takeoff. Oyo Police plays 500,000 bounty on wanted Ibado serial killer. That can be found on page 26. And then the picture story, it's all about a protest here. I think it's all about rape, because I'm seeing some inscription on placard here with rape boldly written on one of them. And then beside the picture story, still we have a Rotile story with the caption, Rotile caught freeze 2 suspect, driver charged with culpable homicide. That can be found on page 26 as well. And then still coming from the Nigerian Tribune on the page 25, you will find fresh crisis in Ondo PDP over choice of running mate. Below that, 10 killed in Bayelsa Rivers clashes. That story is on page 27 of the Nigerian Tribune. And beside that, ECOWAS leaders demand Malian president's release, return to constitutional order. You can check page 5 and 21 of the Nigerian Tribune to get the detail of that. And then ECOWAS leaders are set to visit Mali as well. That is contained on that particular story. And I'll take this last one here. Nigeria won't allow flight from hostile countries as foreign airlines express readiness to recommence flight.
Wow.
That can be found on page 7. And then that particular headline actually got me there.
Exactly. Anyway, you said something about
does that mean COVID-19 is now trying to destabilize the bilateral relationship most of these countries are having with hostility?
Because we see other,
like
Western nations have, placed a ban on some countries from coming in and all that, and we see Nigeria also taking that step.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't destroy our, because we have a lot of economic
benefit from the bilateral relationship.
Such relationships.
But our health is sacrosanct, so regardless, whatever is needed to keep
vaccines
our health in check.
a lot of people are working on that. So we hopefully by next year, we hope that things will calm down and then we can revisit these issues.
All right, that does it for the National Dailies this morning. That's talking about the newspaper review segment on Daybreak Africa right here on Television Nigeria. We now go over to our health living desk to get some healthy living tips.
We'll be right back.
Eating a healthy healthy diet is not about strict limitations, staying unrealistically thin, or depriving yourself of the foods you love. Rather, it's about feeling great, having more energy, improving your health, and boosting your mood. Healthy eating doesn't have to be overcomplicated. If you feel overwhelmed by all the conflicting nutrition and diet advice out there, you're not alone. By using these simple tips, you can cut through the confusion and learn how to create and stick to a tasty, varied, and nutritious diet that is as good for your body as it is for your mind. We all need a balance of protein, fats, carbohydrates, fiber, vitamins, and minerals in our diet to sustain a healthy body by selecting the healthiest options from each category. Protein gives you the energy to get up and go while also supporting mood and cognitive function. Too much protein can be harmful to people with kidney disease, but many of us need more high-quality protein. Fats. Not all fat is the same. While bad fat can wreck your diet and increase your risk of certain diseases, good fats protect your brain and heart. In fact, healthy fats such as omega-3 are vital to your physical and emotional health. Fiber. Eating foods high in dietary fiber, grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and beans can help you stay regular and lower your risk for heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. It can also improve your skin and even help you to lose weight. Calcium, as well as leading to osteoporosis. Not getting enough calcium in your diet can also contribute to anxiety, depression, and sleep difficulties. Carbohydrates are one of your body's main sources of energy, but most should come from complex vegetables, whole grains, fruit rather than sugars and refined carbs. To set yourself up for success, try to keep things simple. Try these simple things. 1. Prepare more of your own meals. 2. Make the right changes when cutting back on unhealthy foods in your diet. 3. Read the labels because it's important to be aware of what's in your food. 4. Focus on how you feel after eating. This will help foster healthy new habits and tastes. 5. Drink plenty of water to flush out your systems of waste products and toxins.
Interesting package right there from our health living desk, talking about different classes of food and nutrition generally.
Yeah, classes of food. It makes me remember primary school.
Yes. The last time we had a similar talk concerning that, I was telling Miss Joe, I remember while growing up, Mom had these charts on our dining section with the classes of food and different things, and you'll be looking at those beautiful pictures of carrots and egg, and then you start salivating and all.
I actually picked something when she was talking about some fats that are healthy and others that are not. Some people just generalize fats as
and
unhealthy.
they tell you it will affect your cholesterol level and several other things. But some are actually very healthy.
So you can actually pick the healthy ones and then just discard the other ones.
All right, like you said earlier on, that your statement, our opening statement from you is still ringing in my head when you say your one-stop breakfast show that bring in all the interesting packages and all. So we got that one from the Healthy Living Index, and it's really, really interesting. It will help us check our nutrition and then balance our diet very well. All right, let's take another package we have here, which is a documentary on the impact of COVID-19.
In the past 2 weeks, the number of cases of COVID-19 outside China has increased 13-fold, and the number of affected countries has tripled. There are now more than 118,000 cases in 114 countries, and 4,291 people have lost their lives. Thousands more are fighting for their lives in hospitals. We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
The latest strand of coronavirus, known as COVID-19, was first reported in the commercial city of Wuhan in faraway China. More than 9,920 kilometers away from Lagos, the first place to record a COVID-19 case in Nigeria. From Wuhan, the virus traveled around the world at light speed and leaving behind trails of devastating consequences. In no time, the virus was declared a pandemic even before it found its way to Lagos, Nigeria.
So the gentleman who came here apparently may have gotten infected at a point, but walked through the scene, the screening, with no symptoms. And by the time he got to his house, I think a day or two after, he started to feel unwell. And wisely enough, he went to a hospital.
Like an angry raging wildfire, burning almost everything on its path, the pandemic imprinted catastrophic effect on every aspect of Nigeria's socio-economic life. Most Nigerians perceive coronavirus first as an economic crisis before a health risk. And this is not surprising, with a negative turnaround that the country's economy could contract by 3.2% from a positive forecast of growing by 2.1% in 2020. As the virus raged, Nigeria closed its land borders and airspace, went into a mandatory confinement, and did little or nothing to stem the spread of the virus. With sharp drop in crude oil prices and drop in revenue generation, Nigeria faces daunting obstacles to finance its budget. With closing of the airspace, airlines have lost over 180 billion naira and 91,000 jobs expected to be lost in the same sector.
The disaster facing the airline industry is much bigger. I would say it is bigger post-COVID than any other industry at all. Because
that was a documentary right there on the impact of COVID-19, and like I was telling Susan, that we already know the impact of COVID-19. You cannot take it away that economies have actually nosedive all across the globe, and then I think it's affected mostly some of these economies that are dependent on oil, like that of our dear country, Nigeria.
And you know, it made me to remember what we were talking about earlier on, about what was Mustafa, the SGF was talking about. That he said the main problem why we've not been able to, curb this pandemic around here is because of the attitude of Nigerians, that they are more concerned about their rights than what is at stake. So I think he's quite true, because it was a very passionate speech he gave. He was so worried and emotional about the whole thing. So I think that we really need to work on having the right attitude in these times. This too will pass, but for the time being, it's good that
most times when we talk about the impact of COVID-19, I still want us to x-ray some of the positive things that came along, or some of the positive things that can be derived from the constraint that was brought upon the earth by COVID-19. And we saw people found a new way of doing a series of things, and then it makes it easier at the end of the day. Take, for instance, people tilting towards digital activities more than ever before.
We never have thought
that was possible. That easy. And then you see people now make names for themselves from the comfort of their homes by just uploading pictures on some of these digital platforms. You see people, talents are being birthed.
I mean, apps that came out in this period, I can't imagine that people are actually making money from some apps, and it was just because of COVID-19. Otherwise, they will never have existed.
Apart from even apps are coming out, people now made more use of the existing apps that they were having
than they were doing before. And I know people have been using their phones more than they used to do.
Ordinarily, when you talk about some of those digital apps, it can be largely linked to the youthful generation.
Exactly.
But these days, we have elderly people host meetings via Zoom or webinar and all. And it's really interesting.
It is. It really is.
All right, we now launch our next package.
Yeah.
It's a street creed on.
What does a stitch in time saves 9 mean?
What if I ask you?
I'm going to give you an answer.
Well, let's hear from the street first.
We'll be back shortly.
English language, they say, a stitch in time saves 9. Do you understand?
I understand, sir.
So what is the meaning of a stitch in time saves 9?
I'm sorry, sir. I can't understand this one. Sorry, sir.
If you don't get out of here now, I'll use this hammer to break your teeth.
A stitch in time saves 9. What exactly, as students, do you understand?
A stitch in time saves 9 is just like an adage to maybe an early intervention towards something.
A stitch in time saves time.
I'm sorry, what?
A stitch in time saves 9.
A stitch in time saves 9. Understand that most things that you do, it normally saves time that you do things properly.
Hey! I hear me, by me.
What do you understand by a stitch in time saves 9?
Well, a stitch in time, what you're trying to tell me, stitch in time means maybe if you are doing something in time or...
What do you say?
Okay. Stitch in time is...
If I hear one more word from you, I will tear your mouth, you know me?
What exactly does that statement mean?
It simply means the way you plan your life, that's how you either enjoy it or you regret it.
A stitch in time
saves 9.
Saves 9.
So what do you understand from the English language that you learnt in secondary school?
Yeah, well, which means, by my understanding, the little you saved give you more of that which you have saved.
I think you have malaria.
Very, very interesting one there from our Vox Pop segment. So, questions, the question is, what does it mean by a stitch in time saves 9?
When
and Oga was trying to pull me on the spot.
I was trying to answer that myself, and I discovered that I was answering with another cliche.
With another one.
Yeah, I was like, once bitten, twice shy.
Someone almost said, "Is the way you make your bed that you lie on it." It was almost.
I think it's still along the context of it.
Yeah, it is actually. It's even interesting that some people were actually close. But just for those of you who do not know, a stitch in time saves 9. It's more like being proactive about something, other than reactive. So if you are proactive and you do something, it will save you the greater stress.
I think basically we just need to approach life with that kind of mindset,
exactly.
so that you know that okay, if you do this is the repercussion. Baggage. So you tend to do this one, or if you do, you already know the repercussion. So you just live with it, and it's actually good. I think it's about our time.
Yeah, it's been a short time, of course, on Daybreak Africa as always, and I hope that you've had an interesting edition, because we've had so much fun right here in the studios of Television Nigeria.
Honestly, and I was almost hoping that I was going to tell them to join us tomorrow, and I remember tomorrow something else will be happening at about this time, but not Daybreak, but by the special grace of God, on Monday we will be back with another interesting outing. Until then, my name is Elvis Oga.
And I'm Susan Achin.
We'll be leaving you with a package on Amazing Africa. Stay safe and stay tuned to Television Nigeria.
Have a beautiful weekend ahead. Bye-bye.
Bye.